Hey everyone, we're in Athens, Ohio, and we're here at Joe Burrow Stadium. It's week 13 of Stadium Drive. It's round 3 of the Division 5 playoffs, Region 19, a regional semifinal matchup, West Muskingum Tornadoes, Wheelersburg Pirates, Will Ford, Aaron Sprague, for another week of football, man. And for West Muskingum, it's pretty exciting for them because this is as far as they've made it in the dance.
Yes.
And a chance to move on to the regional final for the first time in school history, taking on a Wheelersburg program that's been around a long time. They've kind of been there, done that before, and I think we're set up for a really good football game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, all the matchups are good now. I mean, look down at the games we're covering. I mean, all the matchups look like they're almost coin tosses. But you're right, it's the furthest West Muskingum's ever made it. They've won 2 playoff games coming into this game. A win here would put them in a regional championship game, which is obviously historic. And they're just going to keep fighting, man. Obviously, we've talked about it a million times, the way this West Muskingum program has turned itself around under Coach Brownrigg. And they just keep winning and keep surprising people. I mean, look at some of the early season wins. They beat Licking Valley. Licking Valley's only regular season loss. Lost a heartbreaker to Garaway, then lost the heartbreaker to New Lexington and lost the league title. But they've kept going because they had bigger goals, and this is one of them, winning another playoff game against a rich tradition Wheelersburg program. So not the matchup you probably want, but a matchup you're going to take because you're here.
Well, and it's kind of interesting because I talked to Coach Brownrigg during the week, and last year in round 2 they had to face Harvest Prep, but this year they kind of got to avoid both Ironton and Harvest Prep, and so now if they win this game tonight, they would obviously match up between one of those two. So you're going to see one of them eventually, but it is kind of great that one of them's going to knock out each other, and if you do happen to win, then I guess anything can happen from there. But if you do advance to round 4 in a regional final, both teams aren't still in the draw at that point.
Right. No, it's just, I mean, this is great football now. Everyone talks about the expansion of the playoffs, and I think everybody knows the first round you get rid of the bad teams.
Right.
The next round you're playing at least an average team, and then now you're playing some good teams for sure right here. A nice hour trip for West Muskingum down Route 93 toward Athens. We are live in Athens, Ohio, the home of Joe Burrow. We're at Joe Burrow Stadium. Any Ohio high school football fans and really Ohio football fans certainly know Joe Burrow. If you remember the damage he did from 2011 to 2014, over 11,000 yards passing, and put on absolute clinics. In fact, he was the reason Tri-Valley lost in the playoffs twice.
Right.
The show he was able to put on. So phenomenal player here, named after him. And I love that they named the stadium after him immediately. Right. He won the Heisman. They're like, yep, Joe Burrow Stadium, done deal. A lot of people will wait like 50 years. They're like, nope,
no, they gave it to him now.
It's now. So
and
it's
he's
really
still in the prime of his career.
Yeah, he's exceptional. 27 years old and still getting better. As long as the Bengals can figure it out, he might have a chance to win one, but the Bengals better figure it out. But yeah, Joe Burrow Stadium here live in Athens, a short trip for West Muskingum, a great opportunity tonight. And the last time I was here, Will, 2015, Zanesville football.
You told me this,
Zanesville football, Coach Chad Grandstaff's second regional title, led by Leo Crosby. The Blue Devils took down the Jackson Ironmen here in convincing fashion in a game where I've never seen, one of the few games where I've seen one player completely dominate a game on both sides of the ball. Leo Crosby did it that night. Zanesville punched their ticket to the state semifinal where they eventually lost to Akron-Hoban the next week in Massillon. But last time I was here 9 years ago. Expecting and hoping to see some more historic performances tonight.
It's the first time that I've been here, so I'm really excited. It seems like it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's not too cold right now. It might get cold later, but that's fine. You mentioned the 16-team expanded playoff. We were talking about it on the way here. I feel like the 16 team is very good for Division I football, just because there are so many good players and teams and coaches in Division I, and then as you kind of get further down in division, we've talked about that, but
I would definitely say more people are against it than they are for it.
Sure, yeah. That's kind of the consensus.
It's hard to complain about more football. I like that. I don't love the timing of it as far as starting the season a week early and then how long it runs and butts up to basketball. That's kind of tough. I was going to say, because we don't really get much of a break. We kind of hop right into basketball. There's not much. And I feel bad for basketball coaches because we're trying to set that stuff up for basketball. We're so much very in football mode. But yeah, well, pumped to be here tonight, and we have some other big games tonight. You're going to get to some of those other coaches. We're covering games all across the state yet again in these week 13 matchups, so ready to get into those too.
And in this show tonight, we're featuring interviews, obviously from Coach Brownrigg, West Muskingum, but we're talking to Coach Board of New Lex. They've got a big matchup against Indian Valley.
Huge.
Indian Valley's undefeated. No team has been able to stop Grady Kinsey in that rushing attack all season, so can they do that? We'll hear from him. But we're also going to take a trip to Columbus as well with Dublin Kaufman. They were 2-8 in the regular season and now have caught fire at seemingly the best time, and they're as dangerous as anyone left in Division I. They're taking on Centerville, who have an outstanding defense. Defense has kind of been the calling card of that program for such a long time. So we talked to Coach Stokes and Coach Ullery That's a Division I Region II matchup tonight. So we're giving a lot of teams that we haven't had a chance to talk to this season some love tonight. And unfortunately, some teams are going to win, some teams are going to lose, but hopefully we've got some matchups where we've got two teams that we cover playing against each other. But we would love to see as many teams as we cover just continue to keep moving on.
It's tradition for me and some of the other guys in the office to at least be filming a game in the Final Four on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, we Garaway last year.
It seems like we're always doing something. It's almost tradition to finish out. We like to get a football state championship one of these days for one of the teams we cover.
Yep.
Maybe that happens this year. We got some good teams still in the mix, but. If you are back in Zanesville, want to miss you. If you're back in Zanesville tonight, you want to go to a football game, you don't know where to go. The Massillon Tigers are playing at Salzburger Stadium.
That's correct.
Against Tays Valley. They were the state champions last year. They are stacked again, nationally ranked. If you want to go to a football game, you might want to go check out the Massillon Tigers there at Salzburger tonight.
That might be a pretty good one. A great program, as you said.
All right, I'm ready.
I was going to say, what do you say we hop into some interviews here?
Let's do it.
And we'll start with that game between Dublin Kaufman, a 14 seed, against the 2 seed Centerville Elks. We'll start with Garen Stokes. In the regular season, 2-8. What was missing? He's going to talk about that. Obviously, the tremendous player of the last 3 weeks of Amari Valerio Hudson, who's quarterback turned receiver, turned back to quarterback after some graduating players last year, and he is just completely lit it up running the football the last few weeks. And he's going to talk about that as well as the stellar play of his offensive line. So here is Coach Garen Stokes, Dublin Kaufman Shamrocks, here on Stadium Drive, Week 13, live on Facebook, X, YouTube. Thanks so much for being here, and here is Coach Stokes.
Garen Stokes joining us, Dublin Kaufman, the Shamrocks in Week 13, Round 3 of the Division I Region II playoffs, an opportunity to advance to the regional final this week as they take on Centerville. But Coach, I want to start by asking, regular season, at a 2-8 record, but you find yourself now, sitting here with a chance, like I said, to go to the regional final. Was there something that was missing during the regular season other than, obviously you play a really tough schedule, but was there something missing in the regular season where you finished 2-8, but now it seems like you're playing really, really good football and you're as dangerous as any team that's left?
Tackling, leveraging the ball, effort, great execution. Yeah, it was all missing. We just weren't good enough for our schedule throughout the regular season. And I think the coolest part about that was it never broke us. We just kept getting better. And on the verge of breaking the Davidson week or the UA week where we got blown. But then our guys just keep going. They just keep swinging. And it doesn't matter to us, wins or losses. We went on a 7-game losing streak. Adults were disappearing, kids were disappearing, people were jumping off the ship. I was getting accused of all kinds of crazy things. There's nothing missing. It was just we just had to get better. So that's the coolest part about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked in the last time we got a chance to talk was in the preseason, and we talked about Amari Valerio Hudson, and this 3-game stretch that he's put together the last couple weeks has just been unbelievable. In Week 10 against Bradley, 281 rush yards. He had 6 total touchdowns. First round of the playoffs, 370 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, and then 286 yards last week against Lebanon, 6 rushing touchdowns, a passing touchdown. What are you feeding him, man? Because he is just putting the team on his back, it seems like, the last couple weeks.
He and our offensive line have been great. We knew we could do this. We just didn't know, I guess we knew we couldn't do it all year long. If he would have done this in the regular season, we probably wouldn't have him right now. But he's one of the best, toughest. I told you this last time, highest character guy we've have. And I know this from experience. When you get into playoff football, November football, you lose with your dudes. We call it dude time. The teams that are going to advance, their best players, always play at a super high level when they win. So we're going to give it to our guy, and we're going to see where it takes us. He's super competitive, so he elevates everybody's level around him.
And I definitely want to give a special shout out to all the guys that have been blocking for him all season long. You've got a bunch of seniors, tight ends and offensive linemen, tight end Christian Werling, offensive linemen, seniors are Armando Campa, Leo Cavanesh, Trey Gregory, Max Patterson, Logan Stuck, a junior, Clayton Shipley, and then another tight end who's a sophomore, Mason Perrell. I mean, how pivotal have they been just gelling together as the season's progressing, as it's progressed, to not only make things easy for Amari, but just other guys on your offense?
Yeah, we create a lot of gaps with those guys, and they've just consistently gotten better over the course of time throughout the year. They take pride, and we knew like we're not super skilled, we're not super athletic, like it's just not who we are on our roster. Uh, so we have to be a line of scrimmage football team, and if we don't win the line of scrimmage, we're not going to win a lot of things. So these guys have, I mean, we've had injuries, we've had kids quit, like and nobody's flinched. It just next guy gonna move in, tight end's gonna move to tackle. Uh, he's gonna be a backup guard. It's just been really cool. It's like what high school sports are supposed to be about, like teams finding a way to just get better and grow and force the issue a little bit.
So next up is Centerville and the Elks, and I'll start with them on the defensive side of the ball because in the first two rounds of the playoffs, they've forced 6 turnovers, 4 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, and obviously you guys run it maybe a bit more than you throw it. But what's the key to protecting the ball and just having possession and using the clock to your advantage and not giving the ball to Centerville to give them opportunities to score?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I have so much respect for their defensive coordinator. His like toughness and demeanor and how he goes about his business, like it's reflected in the whole program. So their defense is great. Play hard, tough, physical. They're great schematically. Like it's gonna be a chore, but that's what we signed up for. Like it's what you train for. It's why all those 6 a.m. lifts all year round. Like this is the coolest part. Like, go do your thing on a big stage and against a really good team. Like, yeah, we got to play our football game. Like, we got to impose. Like, it's got to go the way we want it to go, or it's going to be a long night. So, um, it's the way it's supposed to be, man.
Yep. And offensively for them, as you get ready, on defense for what they do, it seems like they run it a bit more than they throw it themselves. Kind of similar, I feel like, to your offense. But Parker Johnson had 4 touchdowns in week 11. He had a touchdown in week 12, but like 180 yards rushing between the 2 games almost. Shane Cole is a quarterback who may not throw it a ton, maybe 10 to 15 attempts a game, but he completes a majority of his passes. He's very efficient, but he can also run it as well. And I mean, when you look at it defensively as you prepare schematically for what they do, quarterback running it and throwing it, but also their guy Parker, doing things out of the backfield, what do you see as you get ready for this challenge?
Yeah, really similar to us offensively, structurally, and um, they got good players, man. Like they get good players, so it's going to be tough. Every Friday night for us defensively is tough. We got to tackle and leverage and set edges and fit gaps and like try to get 3 linebackers on the same page. Like it's been a chore for that, but our guys again they just keep showing up to practice and keep getting better. So I know this. Our kids will swing, like they'll swing and they'll come out of the corner when the bell rings and like they'll fight, and then the next round, like they'll go get beat up, and then they'll come back out the next round and fight again. So, yeah, we got a big time challenge. Like it's cool. It's week 13. There are no bad teams left. So, um, go be at your best. That's what everybody's trying to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there are no bad teams left. It's kind of the Super Bowl every week from here on out, as you get ready to try to chase a regional final and then move on from there. But Coach, I really appreciate you taking 5-10 minutes to talk some football with me this morning, man. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you. First time we got to talk since the preseason, and you guys are really dangerous, playing some amazing football right now, and I'm excited to see what you guys do against Centerville.
I appreciate you, Will.
I love Coach Garen Stokes. He's just such a cool guy, and it's an all-time quote that in playoff football, it's dude time. And Amari Valerio Hudson has been that dude the last 3 weeks. I mean, you heard me, talk about the numbers. I'll repeat those numbers here real quick. just because they're incredible. In Week 10 against Hilliard Bradley, 281 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. He also threw for a touchdown in that win. A win against Westland in Week 11, 370 rushing yards, 7 rushing touchdowns. And then in Week 12 against Lebanon, 286 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and he also threw for another. The dude is just on an insane hot streak right now. Is he gonna slow down? I think Coach Brent Ullery and the Centerville Elks kind of hope so. They hope he's a little tired after carrying the ball so much and scoring so much. And that's going to be the challenge for that Elks defense, who over the last 2 games in Week 11 and Week 12 for Centerville, wins against Beaver Creek and Springboro, forced 6 turnovers, 4 fumbles, 2 interceptions. The defense has been playing lights out as it has all year long, but especially important in these playoffs. And there's no team hotter offensively right now than Dublin Kaufman and Mario Valerio Hudson. So they're going to need to step up to the challenge tonight. And, Centerville's offense has done a tremendous job as well. Parker Johnson, their tailback, over 170 yards rushing between the 2 playoff wins, 5 rushing touchdowns. Their quarterback, Shane Cole, can run it too. And he's very efficient as a passer, maybe only throws it 10 to 15 times a game, but doesn't throw incompletions often. And when he runs, he's pretty effective as well. He had 68 yards rushing on 16 carries and a touchdown in the Week 12 win. So this is going to be a really good matchup in Division I Region 2, a chance to go to the regional final. A Centerville team that's been outstanding really since Week 5 on. They started the year 2 and 3. Their out-of-conference play was really, really tough, and Coach Ullery will talk about that in a second. And then for Kaufman, they were on a 7-game losing streak, and they are as hot as anybody right now. But let's throw it over to Coach Ullery, Centerville Elks. That Week 5 loss to Springfield, that was kind of the turning point on their season. They stayed the course, leaned on the defense and the running game, Parker Johnson and other guys on defense, and they're playing really well. And now they have to step up to task to defend Amari Valerio Hudson and try to move on to the regional final in Division I Region 2. So here is Coach Ullery, Stadium Drive, Week 13, here on Facebook, X, YouTube. Coach Ullery, Centerville Elks.
Well, Brent Ullery, Centerville Elks, joining us Week 13, Round 3 of the Division I Region 2 playoffs. And thanks for joining me here this afternoon, Coach. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and it's the first time we've gotten to talk since the preseason. But your Elks right now are on a 7-game win streak as we're into Round 3 of the playoffs. And you were 2 and 3 after 5 games. But what kind of clicked for you and your squad after that loss to Springfield?
Sure. We played a brutal non-conference schedule, starting off with Lakota East, St. X, and Carmel, Indiana. And, and then you jump right in and you got Fairmont and Springfield staring at you. So, the beginning of the year was tough and we knew it was going to be like that. But our kids did a phenomenal job. Our coaches did a phenomenal job just staying the course and just, continuing to make the main thing and, trying to get better one day at a time. And, when you keep that focus and you make it about the process rather than the result, the result will usually follow right after that. So that's kind of what we're seeing. And we haven't changed our focus. We haven't changed our game plan in any way. It's just, try to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday.
Talk to me about the defense, through these first 2 rounds of the playoffs in Week 11 and Week 12. In wins against Beaver Creek and Springboro, you forced 6 turnovers, 4 of them were fumbles, 2 interceptions. What's been the secret behind the stellar defensive play through the first 2 rounds?
It's been stellar defensive play for more than the first 2 rounds. We've been leaning on them pretty hard for most of the season, and even going back multiple years, the defense has always been a staple of Centerville football, and it will continue to be that way. But just the way they prepare, they prepare extremely well. They practice extremely hard. They have super high expectations and standards for themselves. And it shows up on Friday night, and, when you talk about turnovers and everything, it's not a real secret to why turnovers happen when you prepare and practice like they do. And, they even prepare and practice their turnovers like that. So, they do everything with great intentionality. And it shows up on Friday night. And it's really a big help for us to be able to lean on them when we need to.
What's the key to, we'll shift gears here to Kaufman this week, because, they were 2-8 in the regular season. Obviously they play a tough schedule just like you guys do, but things have finally started to click for them and they seem as lethal as any team that's left in the bracket. But what's the key to corralling Amari Valerio Hudson? Because the dude's just on a serious heater right now. The last 3 weeks, he's 281 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 1 passing against Bradley in week 10. In week 11 against Westland, he had 370 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. Then last week against Lebanon, 286 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. One of them was a throwing one. I mean, how do you corral him? You're probably not going to stop him. I mean, he's going to have his carries. He's probably going to carry it 30 plus times, but oh, by the way, he can throw it too. I mean, like, how do you navigate that? Obviously your defense prepares very well, but he is a unicorn of a player.
Sure. And kind of listening to those numbers, I'm kind of wondering if he's going to get tired maybe ever. So he's been running like
right.
No, he does a great job. He's a phenomenal player. They're using him in really great ways to accent their team and his skill set and everything. Bottling him up you're right. It's going to be tough. And I don't think it's possible to, say he's going to get 0 yards or anything like that. But, our main focus is always, play fast and violent and get hats to the ball. And, if we're able to, stick within our game plan and execute very well at a very fast speed and get pursuit of the ball and get hats on the ball, then, that's the best chance we're going to have at stopping him. He's a great player and he's going to be fun to watch. And, his film has been awesome to study and watch. And I know our defensive staff is working hard. Our defensive players are working hard on their game plan. But it's really going to be about being fast and physical and getting to the ball. One guy is not going to be enough. We're going to need 11 hats every play, just fast and getting there and, make them earn it and make them drive down and drive rather than burst in long runs and stuff like that.
Yeah, he is fun to watch, but hopefully for you, it's more fun to watch your guys tackle him than it is to watch him run away from some of your guys. Do you put a spy on him on pretty much every down? I mean, what does that look like, when you try to prepare your guys on defense?
Sure. I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs of our defensive game plan. I'm primarily an offensive coach. I coach the tight ends.
Sure.
But, I don't know if we'll spy him every play, but I do know that our kids will obviously know where he's at. But more importantly, like they do a lot of formation stuff and you have to get lined up correctly first so that you're not outnumbered to the point of attack and you're not at a disadvantage at the point of attack. And then when the ball snaps, you got to be fast and violent through there. And, if you're allowing yourself to get blocked and you're out of position and everything, then all of a sudden you're going to see what should be short runs turn into long runs. You're going to see what long runs turn into lots of points and stuff like that. So our focus will continue to be, get lined up properly and get off the ball. Like just get off the dang ball. And if we do that and we pursue, that's going to be our game plan essentially.
Well, let's shift to your side of the ball then on offense. Do you plan to rely on Parker Johnson a lot in this game? I mean, through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, he's got 185 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns in these playoffs. Is it your plan to continue to rely on him?
Yeah, we've been leaning on him for 12 weeks. We're not going to stop. He deserves it. He's a great player. He does a great job. He breaks a lot of tackles. So yeah, we're going to lean heavily on our offensive line, on him, our quarterback, Shane Cole. They're all like both of them are going to run the ball. We have other guys that can carry the ball as well that you'll see on Friday night. We're going to do what we do, like what we're on film doing. Like that's what we're going to do. And we've leaned on Parker and Shane this far, and we're going to continue to lean on them and allow them the opportunity to make plays.
It's going to be an outstanding game to watch this Friday. Centerville taking on Dublin Kaufman, 2 teams that are red hot right now. And Coach, I always appreciate your time, man. It's the first time we got to chat since the preseason, but always appreciate it. And best of luck to you against Kaufman. And hopefully you guys keep advancing in these playoffs, man.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate all you guys do. You guys do a great job.
Going to be a good one. Centerville, Dublin Kaufman. Big thanks to Coach Stokes, Coach Ullery for joining us on the show this week. That's going to be a spectacular game because Kaufman, 2-8 regular season. A lot of people counting them out, and they just get hot at the right time. And the Centerville Elks always tough defensively, and they've got a really strong running game as well. Very similar styles, as you heard Coach Ellery allude to. Similar styles offensively. They both like to run the football. That's going to be good. But let's shift gears now and move to New Lex and the Panthers, led by Coach Board. Isaiah Stevens at quarterback, Bentley Hansen a wide receiver, Carson Kellogg at running back. He's had a spectacular last couple of weeks for the Panthers, but they take on an Indian Valley team. The Indian Valley Braves, undefeated. They haven't scored less than 40 points all season long. They're averaging 45 points a game. Grady Kinsey is a top 15 rusher in the nation, the leader in Ohio, 2,500 yards, over 30 touchdowns. He has just been a machine all season long, and no team has been able to stop him this season. He did sit out one game. I believe it was week 10, or maybe it was round 1 of the playoffs, but he has just been fantastic, as good as advertised. He's not the biggest dude. He's not a super big, muscly kid, but he's got a very strong lower body and just keeps those legs churning. It's going to be a unique challenge for New Lex because they just haven't seen anything like that all year, and really no team does. But a team that runs it as well as they do. Grady Kinsey, like I said, a 2,500-yard rusher, but their quarterback, Ryder Pennington, is the 1,000-yard rusher. So you got two guys that are really good at running the football. It's not just straight dive, just hand it off every time. I mean, they have some movement, some variance in their scheme and in their play design and everything. And Coach Board, I think, is excited about that challenge, but it makes it really difficult for your defense to get lined up properly when you don't know what they could be running with motions and jet sweeps, and is it just a straight handoff? Read option. It really puts your defense in a quandary, and I know he's excited about that opportunity, but his offense, I think, has a tremendous opportunity to keep pace because they're an explosive offense in their own right. Isaiah Stevens has been so good, much better compared to last year. Does not turn the ball over. They're a big play offense. Bentley Hansen has been a fantastic receiver all year, but they have other guys too that can make plays on the perimeter. But Carson Kellogg, the last couple of weeks, has really stepped up and showed out in a big way. And I talk about that at the start of the interview with Coach Board, and we'll hop into it right now. New Lex Panthers, the number 3 seed, taking on number 2 Indian Valley, and that's going to be a fantastic matchup, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that one goes as we follow all the games going on in our coverage area tonight. But here is head coach Kevin Board. New Lex Panthers, the 3 seed, taking on the 2 seed Indian Valley Braves and Grady Kinsey. All right, well, Kevin Board is back. New Lex Panthers going into round 3 of the playoffs, and it's been a minute since we've talked, Coach. It was about midway through the season since we last had you on the show, and you guys have had a fantastic year, and the first 2 rounds of the playoffs have been pretty much perfect for you. 55-28 win against Canton South, and then a 52-14 win against Logan Elm. Your team has been playing really well, but I think one guy in particular that really stands out to me is Carson Kellogg, your running back. The last 3 weeks, week 10, he had 86 yards rushing against Sheridan in a rivalry win. Week 11, 21 carries, 200 yards against Canton South, and then 179 total yards in week 12, 3 touchdowns versus Logan Elm. He has really stood out to me as an impact guy on offense, as long as with your other talented kids, but he's had a tremendous last 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's one of the guys that, among others, have had really, really good games in the last few weeks. I think we're, as a team, peaking at the right time, which is what you would want for your team to happen. But Carson's a phenomenal kid. He's a great worker. He's a great teammate. He's a team captain for reasons. He works hard. He treats others with respect. He does the right thing always. So it's nice to see a kid like that have the success that he's having. But I think that he would credit a lot of that to the offensive line. I think he played really well here the last couple of weeks, which has allowed him to be successful. But him as a kid, he's a great athlete. He's a kid that any coach would want to have. And thankful that he's on our squad, but he's played really well, and hopefully he continues that little hot streak that he's been on.
You mentioned that your team is playing its best football at the right time, which is absolutely what you want. But is there one area or two that you think just needs to be sharpened up just a little bit more as you get ready for Indian Valley this week?
Everything needs sharpened up. It's there's I think every coach would tell you there's nothing that's perfect. The offensively we've put up 50 the last 2 weeks, but really well. That's where we haven't done our assignment to the best of our ability. Defensively, there's been a couple of series where we're not doing what we're supposed to do. I mean, we start out last week, first 2 series we go 3 and out. They go down 80 yards on their second series and score. And then from there, we tightened up. 2 weeks ago versus Canton South, we were up 28-7 at halftime and let them score 3 touchdowns in the second half. So, special teams is also one that can always be sharper. But I would say just across the board, I want to continue to press that we need to get better. Perfect. So we want to continue to sharpen up all aspects of our team and put our best product out there on Friday.
Yeah, so with Indian Valley, to win this game, they're undefeated, and to do something that, to beat them, you're going to have to do something that no one has this year, which is stop their running game. That's what they do. It's Grady Kinsey's 2,500 yards, 34 touchdowns. He averages almost 230 yards rushing a game. I mean, what do you do to stop that? Because no other team has had success against him this year. You're not going to be able to stop it, but what do you do to just minimize it, keep him under 200 yards to give your offense a chance to kind of keep pace with those guys, because they average 45 a game. They haven't scored under 40 points all game or all season.
Yeah, no, there's nobody that has stopped them, and they've seen some really good teams. You look at Ridgewood, you look at Garraway that played them, and Dover, quality. What you got to do. You got to force them to drive on you. There's a lot of teams that they have 1 or 2 play touchdowns from 80 yards out, 70 yards out, and they have great team speed. But there's been a lot of missed tackles in those games as well. So I think we've got to, one, if we have an opportunity to get the running back down, then we got to get them down, and then 2, make them beat you with drives, not big plays. I think any team would tell you that if you can minimize the other team's big plays, I think that our biggest key is we've got to be locked in and sound to where we're lining up to some of their formations, and then just gang tackle, man. He can't allow him to break through and then take off for a speed race, because I don't know that we'll catch him.
Schematically, do you just stuff the box? I mean, the majority of the time, just to make sure that you have guys in position to gang tackle?
I think there's a handful of things we can do. One is loading the worry about loading the box levels to defense. So if you get a side wash down, which their offensive line does very well, now you have a first level and your third level. And if you've only got one guy in the third level, again, he's getting a full head of steam running at you, and that's not a matchup that we want to be. So, obviously the quarterback's a really good runner too. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. They do some jet sweeps to get you going horizontally. So they do a lot of things. It's certainly not just one guy. Obviously, he's the guy that's the headliner, but they have a lot of guys that do a lot of things. Formationally, they're very diverse in what they do, and trying to find ways to get you outnumbered at the point of attack. So our biggest thing is we want to make sure that we're matching the numbers and then being able to play off of it. But it's not just as simple as, hey, we're going to run right here. They do some motion, some shifts, and some unbalanced sets where you're having to align in a certain way, but they also go counter off of it where it's not just running to their strengths. So it's tough to say, let's just bunch the numbers, because they can go weak or they can go outside, because quarterbacks got good wheels too.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Now, when you look at it offensively, I mean, because Indian Valley, they're going to try to control the clock, run out the clock, and that might limit your offensive opportunities to a degree. Does that change, or I guess mold how you shape your offensive game plan? Is it going to be moving the ball through the air a lot? Obviously, it's going to maybe depend on just how the game's flowing once you get into it. But when you're looking at it on paper and on film, how does it look to you?
Yeah, they've given up some points. Waverly had some success driving the football on them last week. Garraway, Ridgewood moved the ball. For John Glenn, Meadowbrook, 2 teams that are in our league. John Glenn and Meadowbrook had success doing some things. So, like I said, we're not going to change who we are. We're gonna stick to what our identity is, and we're going to go to those guys that have made big plays for us and find ways to get them the ball. But I think you and I talked a few weeks back. We talked about changing what you do versus believing in what you do and just using it. And so, every team has certain strengths that they do, but there's also things that maybe a weakness because of a strength. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to try to attack those weaknesses and utilize the guys that we have and the scheme that we have and play the way that we do. We've gotten to this point because of us doing us. And so, I don't think it's a great time to say let's change what we do and get ultra conservative. We've been aggressive. We've taken shots down the field, and I think that's what allows us to be in this position and allows us to be able to say we can play with anybody because we have the opportunity to score quickly. Ideally, this game would, we'd get several stops, several takeaways, and things would kind of cruise. But obviously, at this point of the year, there's no bad teams. So you're not going to just smoke somebody 35-0. And so we've got to be sound on discipline, try to create some takeaways, and then offensively, we've got to score. If we can score, I think if we get into a shootout, that we can play with that because our style kind of mimics that. Whereas if they're trying to run the football, we look at teams in our league like Coshocton and like Maysville that want to really run the ball and shorten the game. By being aggressive and taking shots and being able to score quickly, you're extending the game. So I think it's two different philosophies. They play some speed up as well. So like I said, we're just going to try to do what we've done to get to this point and continue to play to our strengths.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fantastic game to watch, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's a chance for you guys to move on to the regional final in the Ohio High School Football Playoffs. But, Coach, thanks for hopping on today, man. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you as always. It's been a minute since we last chatted, but you guys have had a fantastic season. You guys are on a roll right now, and we're looking forward to seeing if you guys can do what no other team has done, which is stop that Indian Valley running game and get out of there with a win, man, and move on.
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. I appreciate it. Thanks for all your comments.
Great to get to talk to Coach Board for the first time since around week 4 or 5 after they had beaten West Muskingum in a 38-35 game. But they've got their hands full tonight in a Division IV Region 15 semifinal matchup with Indian Valley. It's going to be interesting to see how they try to defend that running game. Obviously, they're not going to be able to stop it, but can you just get some stops, prevent those huge chunk runs, force them to drive the length of the field. And New Lex is a big play offense in their own right, so that's going to be a really fun game to watch in Division IV. But let's move back to where we are here, Joe Burrow Stadium here in Athens. Really cool to be here, the first time that I've been here. And I'm sure that's pretty cool for Joe he's got so many great things going for him in life, but to have your old high school name the football stadium after you, after the success he had, that's pretty darn cool. But West Muskingum, a 7 seed, playing some really good football right now. Their offense, it wasn't death by 1,000 cuts last week. It was more just big play offense. It was big play offense. It wasn't driving the length of the field. They had some really big plays on offense that led to quick scoring strikes. For Wheelersburg on the other side, they're a 14 seed. They have upset 2 teams to get to this point. Barnesville, one of the best teams in the Buckeye 8, along with Union Local, who had a historic season, and Union Local was an 11 seed. So to upset 2 top Buckeye 8 teams who were favored in those games, obviously Wheelersburg has been around a long time. They're a storied program. They've had tons of success, but this seems like it's going to be a really good matchup tonight. And one guy in particular, and we'll talk about him. How about we talk about him now? It's Carter Winland for West Muskingum. He had a tremendous week last week, part of those big plays for West M in their Week 12 win against Fairland. He carried the ball 21 times, 89 rushing yards. One of those was a big rushing touchdown, though, a long touchdown. But he had 2 rushing TDs and then a 78-yard receiving touchdown on a swing pass from Jake Anton in that 33-7 win at number 2 Fairland. So an upset win there for the Tornadoes, and now they're set up with a chance to go to the regional final for the first time in school history. And they're following up last year, where they got their first home playoff win, had Rashid Cisse on the roster, who was just an outstanding player, a unicorn of a player, so to speak. But they just seem to be much more balanced this year, which makes them more dangerous in a certain respect. And West Muskingum's journey to this point is also kind of interesting too, because they had a kind of a bye week in the middle of the season. They had a game canceled against Riverview because of some injuries on the Riverview side, and that really kind of changed the playoff landscape for West Em too. So it's been an interesting journey to this point, but their playoff run has been special, and they're looking to continue that special nature here tonight against Wheelersburg. So let's hop into the interview with Coach Brownrigg. He'll talk about the special play of Carter Winland, but also just like I said, it's special that this is the first time they've been in this position, but also a Wheelersburg program that runs the ball extremely well. How do you defend that in order to move on past round 3 here tonight? So here's the man you've been waiting to hear from, Nate Brownrigg, West Muskingum Tornadoes. We're here on X, YouTube, Facebook, Stadium Drive, Week 13, Round 3 of the Division 5 playoffs. We're here in Athens, Joe Burrow Stadium. Coach Brownrigg, here he is. Well, Nate Brownrigg is joining us once again for the first time since midway through the regular season. West Muskingum Tornadoes going into round 3 of the Division 5 playoffs, and always appreciate your time, Coach. It's good to talk to you again, man. And this playoff run for you so far has been pretty special. But one guy in particular that's been special, especially last week, Carter Winland, two rushing touchdowns, 89 yards on the ground. He had a big rushing touchdown, but a receiving touchdown that went 78 yards as well. And it was really about big plays for your offense against Fairland. But Carter had a heck of an impact for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been that way all year. Really, he's been that way for a couple of years. He's a guy that for the last few years, whenever I get asked about him or talk about him, he kind of like is the definition of an MVL running back to me. Just a sawed off, tough nosed, hard nosed kid, hard worker. Kind of continues to set the standard for our program that was laid by guys like Harley Hopkins and Ty Shauger and then Rashid and the whole group last year. He's kind of continued that tradition. In the off season, and then just by the way he plays, very emotional player, kind of the emotional, leader, spark plug of our team. And if we've talked earlier in the year about how this year compared to last, like it's hard to focus on one guy because we don't have Rashid that we're trying to feed the ball to a lot. But if we did have one of those guys, it would probably be Carter because of the way, again, just the way that he plays, the way he's built his body to be able to handle a workload. And just big time player on both sides of the ball for us.
Speaking of the other side of the ball, the defense held Fairland to its second lowest point total all season. I mean, what was the secret behind that?
I think it was just, we prepared all week to take away what they wanted to do. And I think they came in, playing a couple teams before us that kind of let them have their way, let them dictate things. And so, our plan was to, they're a big RPO team. So like just by, having a few different alignments, we took away some of their RPO pre-snap reads, forced them to run the ball. And then, we're able to, kind of, not necessarily stack the box, but get dudes into the box to shut down the run game. And I think it was kind of one of those things where they didn't have enough answers built in to figure things out. That on top of, conditions down there weren't ideal. Obviously it didn't rain, but their field's a little sloppy. So that kind of played into things a little bit as far as footing and ball security and stuff. But again, I think our guys they bought into the game plan and came out and executed it really well.
Now, midway through the regular season, you had a game against Riverview that was canceled. And of course, you would have loved to have played that game. And, you don't want players to be out injured, for an entire team like Riverview was dealing with. But you kind of had a bye week, so to speak. And I wonder how that has kind of factored into your team's success this year. Because, a bye week certainly helps guys, be a little fresher. And I don't know if maybe did you feel that although you would have maybe preferred play the game, do you feel that kind of gave you an advantage as you got ready for the stretch run of the second half of the regular season going into the playoffs? You feel fresher physically and maybe even mentally too?
I think at the time it was one of those where we hate giving up the opportunity to play a game. You only get 40 guaranteed games throughout a high school career anyway, so losing one of those is is terrible. However,
Right.
we took that opportunity to do a couple things. One, we were just coming off a really tough stretch of 3 physical games with Licking Valley, Garaway, and New Lex. At that point of the season, we were also 2-2, and so we kind of took that point to also kind of refocus. We did a big program evaluation because we had just come off of 2 consecutive losses, where started with myself and our staff. Evaluating how we were preparing, how we were scheduling practice and things like that, all the way down to evaluating our players and position groups and stuff like that. And we film practice every day, but before that point, we kind of got, I'll just be honest, a little bit lax or lazy as coaches as far as like grading things. And so especially with that off week, we had the time to set aside to like grade every single play of practice. Which kind of impacted some of our personnel groupings and some of the ways guys were playing on both sides of the ball, just to get try to become as efficient as we can. And then also we took that time to kind of refocus or adjust our goals. We come into every season with the goal of competing for an NVL championship, number one, and then putting ourselves in position to make a run in the playoffs. And after losing week 4 to New Lex, the NVL championship was no longer in our control. We had to wait on somebody else, and just based on observations at that point, and obviously it played out this way. Didn't have a lot of confidence that someone was going to knock New Lex off, and so that goal, even though we didn't meet it, we're big believers that that doesn't shut down the season. That doesn't mean that things are a waste. And so we kind of refocused and said, all right, we're not only going to try to, we don't want to just win these next 5 games on our schedule, but we want to win them the right way. We want to win them, by preparing the right way, going out and executing a little bit better, on Friday nights, and kind of turning ourselves into the best version of West End football we could be heading into the playoffs, with the mindset of let's make a real run. Let's not just come in and be satisfied with winning a game, or in this case even winning 2 games, but let's really put something together and see what we can do. And I think the kids bought into that. Practice really changed over those last 5 weeks, and it's carried into the last couple weeks of playoffs, to where in kind of, I wouldn't say it's by accident, but it was pretty cool to go through a 4-game stretch not giving up a point. And again, I think the kids got excited about that. And some kids really grew up. Some of our sophomores that were playing some big moments or whatever. Kind of grew up and they're executing even better on both sides of the ball and becoming big players for us. So I think that was really big. And then really just kind of like as an aside or bonus, in reality, had we played the game against Riverview, the point positioning and seeding could have been effective actually in a negative way. And so the fact that we didn't play dropped our divisor from 10 to 9. And I think, and I haven't looked exactly at it, but I'm pretty sure that, doing that, bumped us, I think, almost 1.5 points, as far as like seeding in the playoffs go. So, hindsight's always 20/20. And again, we hate to miss a game like that, but in this case, it worked out to put us in a position in the bracket to, match up with some teams that I feel we really match up well with. It wasn't, I've been saying it a few times now, it wasn't Groundhog Day where we were stuck going back to Harvest Prep again, week 12. And so, and ultimately, making runs in playoffs are about several things, health being a big factor. But then also sometimes it's about a big part of it's about matchups. And we got a favorable draw as far as like where we are on the bracket. And so ultimately you're going to have to go through either Harvest Prep or Ironton, but it's kind of a big deal to not have to go through both. And so, again, not to look ahead at all, because we have a huge game this week with an awesome Wheelersburg program. But yes, missing that game week 5 kind of allowed us to do a lot of these things as far as like refocus, retool, and get things ready to go to finish things out.
Yeah, well, you've won the first 2 rounds so far, and you've mentioned, round 3, it's Wheelersburg, and they have upset wins over Barnesville and Union Local. Union Local, a little bit from playing them last year in the playoffs, and those are 2 top teams in the Buckeye 8, and they've played outstanding. I don't know a ton about Wheelersburg, but what I know about what they did last week against Union Local is they ran the football a lot. 45 attempts, over 300 yards rushing as a team. A couple of guys that stand out. Elijah Brown had 131 yards, a touchdown. Emnett, 48 yards rushing and a receiving touchdown. Just a lot of guys got a lot of touches, and they ran the ball really well. When you look at the film and as you prepare for that physical, running game, what things do you see as far as getting your defense ready?
Yeah, I think at first glance they're really similar to us as far as their style of play. Now, not necessarily schematically things being the exact same, but they kind of dress things up with formations and some motions and stuff like that with the goal to run the ball. And we try to do some similar things. I think we're a little more dynamic in the pass game than they are, but they have some dangerous guys. The quarterback is a very, very good player, not just with his arms but with his legs as well. And they're also really big, so we're going to be outmanned as far as size wise goes up front. Their offensive line is, I think their smallest guy is like 6'4", 225. They got 300 plus guys up front, and so that's something that we've been preparing for all week. And again, high school football, you have that sometimes, but just because somebody's big doesn't mean that guys are going to roll over, and our guys definitely aren't. We're going to continue to line up and play hard and play with some leverage, and do things technically sound and gap sound. And I think if we do that, then we'll be in a position to make plays. But no doubt, tremendous amount of respect for Coach Woodward and the Wheelersburg program. A little bit ahead of us as far as he's been there for 17 years, got a state championship in 2017. Multiple long playoff runs, and so they're at a spot where we're trying to get to. And so it's a cool opportunity to play a team with tradition like that, with community support like Wheelersburg has, and something we're really excited about, and looking forward to. It's going to be a battle. I was telling the kids last night that I was starting, and I normally don't do this, get kind of excited or geared up on a Tuesday, but just looking ahead, I can feel that this is going to be a big time tight game. Fourth quarter, last couple drives are going to, I think, dictate how this game turns out. And I think their schedule, similar to ours, they started out with a really, really tough schedule. They started year 1-4, because they played teams like Ironton and Jackson and Harvest Prep, and so they scheduled that way to kind of put themselves in this position. And we tried to do some similar things by scheduling Licking Valley and Garraway. Obviously, New Lex being a league opponent is going to be built in there. But I think that both of us have been battle tested, especially early in the year, and then we went through a run where we were both executing and playing at a high level, I think, leading into the playoffs. And then, like you just mentioned, Dave, the 2 teams they just beat the last 2 weeks are quality programs and quality teams. And so again, I think just sets up for a really exciting, in my opinion, probably the chance to be the best game of the weekend in the entire state. I think we're 2 very, very similar, very well matched up teams.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I'm showing up to that game on Friday. We're going to do our pregame show, man, and it's great. It's always great talking to you, but it's great to check in with you as you enter round 3 of the playoffs and a chance to advance to the regional final for the first time in program history. So really, every game from here on out is kind of the Super Bowl, and it's survive and advance, man. And like you said, it's going to be a good one. So, but thanks, Coach, for your time as always, man. Best of luck against Wheelersburg, and we're really looking forward to watching you guys play.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach Brownrick, for joining our show once again. I think we had him and Coach Board on 3 different times in the regular season through the first half of the year, and great to check in with him again as they get ready to take on Wheelersburg, a 14 seed, 2 upsets for them. Barnesville and Union Local ran the ball really well. against the Jets in a 28-23 win. 45 attempts, 300 rushing yards as a team. A couple guys really stood out. We'll get to them here in a minute. But West Em, offensively and defensively, playing their best football at the right time. You heard him talk about Carter Winland, who had 3 total touchdowns in a dominant 33-7 win over Fairland. The defense, held Fairland to their second lowest point total all season. Really impressive play by the Tornadoes. They went through a brutal stretch, as you heard Coach Brownwick say, through that early part of the year. You played Garraway, Licking Valley, Garraway, New Lex, and they lost 2 of those games. And that bye week, injury week against Riverview, sort of allowed them to reset, reevaluate themselves as a team, and they are playing outstanding football. And here they sit at 9-2, taking on an 8-4 Wheelersburg team. And let's give Wheelersburg some love, right? The Pirates. Let's show them some love, and let's check out the 3-headed monster that heads this offense for the Pirates. You have Ison Emnett, Elijah Brown, Braylon Rucker. Braylon Rucker's their quarterback. He had 60 yards rushing, two touchdowns. Elijah Brown in the middle there, 25 carries, 131 yards. He had a touchdown too. He's the bell cow for the Pirates. And then Emnett on your left, 48 rushing yards, but he also had a 39-yard receiving touchdown in a 28-23 win at Union Local in round 2. That's the 3-headed monster for the Pirates. And they're going to get a lot of work, a lot of touches here in Athens tonight. And I saw a couple sprinkles come down, so we might get a little bit of rain here. I really hope not, though, because it's starting to cool down, and that rain is only going to make it worse. So I hope the rain stays away. But before we hop out of here, end the show for the night, and get ready for some football, let's take you through the other games that are in our coverage area. There's not many left because, teams get eliminated as the playoffs roll on. But let's start with our Week 13 matchups in East and Northeastern Ohio. So we've got New Lex, number 3, at number 2 Indian Valley in Division 4, Region 15. We featured that game earlier in the show. Garraway, number 5 seed, taking on number 1 South Range in Division 5, Region 17. If you remember, Garraway was in Division 6 last year, so they bump up. Of course, our game here tonight, number 6 Dalton is at number 2 New Middletown Springfield, Division 6, Region 21. And then Ridgewood, who we caught in the first round of the playoffs against Mechanicsburg, they're taking on number 2 Northmore in Division 6, Region 23. And then the other side, Central and Western Ohio, just 4 games on this side of our coverage area. The game we featured at the top of the show, number 14 Dublin Kaufman, number 2 Centerville, Division 1, Region 2. The other Division 1, Region 2 game that we have is Davidson, a 5 seed, hosting number 8 Wayne. In the middle, Division 1, Region 3, this one is going to be fantastic. Olentangy Liberty, number 1 seed, taking on Justin Buttermore, the Upper Arlington Golden Bears, a 5 seed, and Upper Arlington, outstanding defensive effort against Orange last week. I was at that game. They intercepted Levi Davis 3 times. They were able to use the running game to run out the clock and get that victory, avenging their Week 8 loss to the Pioneers. And then bottom of your screen, number 1 Grandview Heights, who they had to bye themselves in Week 10, allowed themselves to get refreshed and recharged for these playoffs, taking on number 4 Fort Fry, Division 6, Region 23. And of course, I have the @ symbols on all of these, but obviously these are all played on neutral sites. But the home team would be the teams on the right side, of course, as you know. But anywho, West Muskingum, number 7 seed, number 14 Wheelersburg. We are, what time is it? We're just under 15 minutes away from kickoff here at Joe Burrow Stadium here in Athens. Going to be a good one. Make sure you follow us on all the socials, but especially on X, where we post score updates throughout the night for all the games you're looking to follow that are in our coverage area. And I'll be posting highlights with the score updates here at this one in Athens. So make sure you follow us on the socials. But check us out on Instagram and Facebook after the fact for posts about the games that we covered as well. But I'll see you in Week 14 for the regional final. And let's play some football, man. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Stay warm. Happy football. Thanksgiving's coming up, and hopefully we're still doing this show in a couple weeks on Thanksgiving weekend. But take care, everyone. Happy football. West Em, Wheelersburg coming your way on social.